Good afternoon. I call this meeting to order, and welcome to the 54th meeting of the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs. We acknowledge that we meet on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples. Our meeting this afternoon will be in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order on Thursday, June 23rd, and members can be present in person or on Zoom. The proceedings will be published on the House of Commons website. The broadcast will show the person speaking and not necessarily a shot of the whole committee. For those participating virtually, I'd like to outline a few rules to follow. You may speak in the official language of your choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting in French, English, and Inuktitut. You have the choice at your bottom of the screen of either Floor, Inuktitut, English, or French. Please select your language now. If interpretation is lost, please inform me immediately and we will ensure interpretation is properly restored before resuming the proceedings. For members participating in person, proceed as you normally would when the whole committee meeting is in person in a committee room. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the proceedings and verification officer. Please remember to address your questions through the chair. And when speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. When you are not speaking, your microphone should be on mute. With regard to a speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do the best we can to maintain a consolidated order of speaking for all members, whether they are participating virtually or in person. That should be consolidated. We have a number of witnesses today. We will try to get through them as efficiently as possible. First, we will go through the names of the witnesses, then we'll start the testimony. We have here in person, we have Renee St. Germain, the director at the Assembly of First Nations. We have Irene Oakes, a project specialist, and Dana Braunberger, research and innovation at Headwater Learning Solutions. Joining us remotely, we have from the First Nations Education Council, John Martin, and Anne Gross-Louis, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and from the First Nations with Schools Collective, Leslie White-Eye, Governance Director. Thank you, everyone. We have done the sound checks. Everything is ready to proceed. And I believe we will start with you, Ms. St. Germain. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to start by thanking the committee for the opportunity to appear in front of you today to speak on First Nations graduation rates and the successful outcomes of our students. I'm here representing the Assembly of First Nations as the Director of Languages and Learning. The AFN is a national advocacy organization that works to advance the collective aspirations of First Nations individuals and communities across Canada on matters of national or international nature and concern. First Nations students have the inherent and treaty right to receive an education that is in accordance with their culture, values, traditions, and languages, and that is free from prejudice and discrimination. Quality and culturally appropriate education is a cornerstone to the preservation and vitality of First Nations societies. The history of colonization, residential institutions, the 60s scoop, and the imposition of federal and provincial laws and policies have had devastating consequences on First Nations children and families, their languages, education, and social structures. There is a pressing need for greater supports to address the gaps in First Nations education systems. Measuring First Nations graduation rates from coast to coast to coast provides examples of both exemplary First Nations-led education systems, but even more that are seeking to assert control to address the impacts of colonization and poor government supports. An example of First Nations success include Mi'kmaq Ginamatnaway, who represents the majority of Mi'kmaq communities in Nova Scotia through an education self-government agreement. MK continues to lead First Nations and non-Indigenous high school students with a consistent 90% average graduation rate. As First Nations gain control over their education systems, we are encouraged to see that more and more First Nations are completing high school both on and off reserve. In the past 5 years, there has been a 10% increase in high school attainment on reserve. However, the education gap remains. The most recent First Nations high school attainment rate on a broader scale indicates that 58% of First Nations young adults aged 20 to 24 living on reserve had a high school certificate or equivalent, compared to 93% of non-Indigenous Canadians. Approximately 54% of First Nations students must leave their community to achieve a high school diploma due to lack of access in secondary schools. It is essential that provinces and public school boards are held accountable to First Nations for the outcomes of our students. First Nations across the country remain resilient and committed to asserting their jurisdiction and control over their education system. With 9 completed and signed transformative education agreements, there is an estimated 30% of First Nations receiving equitable funding that meets the specific needs and circumstances. These figures are expected to grow, with an estimated 50 First Nations currently engaging in activities to develop regional education agreements. We look forward to seeing the benefits of these agreements provide to First Nations students as they move through their primary and secondary education. With greater funding and control of their education in schools, we remain confident that First Nations will continue to see progress in graduation rates and successful student outcomes. Alongside primary and secondary education, attainment rates in post-secondary certificates, diplomas, and degrees reveal an estimated 20% education gap between First Nations and non-Indigenous Canadians. Across the spectrum of post-secondary education, First Nations have comparable attainment rates for apprenticeship and trade certificates. Furthermore, First Nations at the highest level of education attainment have higher employment rates than their non-Indigenous counterparts. The demand for First Nations students far exceeds the money that First Nations receive to support members who wish to attend post-secondary schooling. There are over 30,000 First Nations post-secondary students year over year who are not funded in accordance with their treaty and inherent rights. While our treaty partners fail to recognize these rights, investments towards closing the education gap would result in significant benefit. Among these benefits is an estimated increase in the gross domestic product by $30 billion and an additional 188,000 jobs for First Nations people. Finally, the AFN has published 3 reports over the last 3 years that provide an alarming figures on the state of First Nations school conditions. From these reports include identifying 202 on-reserve schools that are overcrowded and require additions. This is over half of First Nations schools in Canada. Furthermore, as I deliver these remarks to you right now, there are more than 56 schools that require immediate replacement based on reported poor conditions or facility age. As we seek to identify solutions in programming, transformative agreements, and targeted enhancements, there must be the same emphasis on education infrastructure. Graduation rates will not be accelerated with First Nations students in schools that need to be condemned or in storage rooms acting as classrooms. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you very much, Ms. St. Germain. That was 4 minutes and 58 seconds. Well done. We'll go to our friends here in person as well. We have from the Headwater Learning Solutions, Irene Oakes and Ms. Dana Braunberger. Combined, you had 5 minutes.
Tanse, asni squal, siga swan, niganit ochenia. Good afternoon, new Honorable Chairman and Honorable Members. Thank you for the invitation to present the great work that we are doing in partnership with Headwater Learning Solutions in Alberta. It is an extreme honor. I bring greetings from Treaty 4 territory. Again, I'd like to acknowledge my member of our team, Ms. Dana Braunberger, who is also will be available to answer any questions that you might have. We all know the dismal statistics of First Nations education and the devastating impacts that it has had. I have witnessed the far-reaching consequences of the one-size-fits-all approach to education that began with residential schools, day schools, provincial school systems, and many others. As a lifelong educator, I have seen the growth of many great things and some not so great. The work that we are doing right now with Headwater Learning Solutions works. I first began working with Headwater Learning Solutions in 2017 when we signed a 3-year partnership with Thunderchild First Nation in Saskatchewan. The work that we continued to do was focused on facilitating the unique vision that Thunderchild had for the education of their youth, grounded in the needs of the students and the community. It was a transformative approach focused on building a sustainable and scalable solution that helps to prepare youth to be internationally competitive while having knowledge and pride in their identity as Thunderchild citizens in an ever-evolving environment. Headwater Learning Solutions continues to make a commitment to the 1970s principle as defined by our leaders from that era, that of Indian control of Indian education. The work that we do is highly customized to what the community has expressed it wants for the education of its youth, as well as implementing the full treaty right to education as signed by our past leaders. Rather than taking a piecemeal approach to promoting and implementing what community wants, through our authentic partnership, we are able to unravel complexities to develop an integrated, systemic approach that defines education solutions more broadly to include cultural, academic, and social needs of the students. At the end of the Thunderchild partnership, measurable success was present at every level. 80% of teachers demonstrated improved urgency, intentionality, and rigor in the planning and delivery of their classes. And with the development of culturally based guiding principles, which we called BSIM at Thunderchild, Thunderchild traditions, ceremonies, values, and the Cree language were infused daily into the school and into the classrooms. The result was that student participation and engagement increased substantially, and nearly 70% of students were able to close their 3 to 5 year learning gaps in foundational reading and numeracy skills. This increased student success also fueled increased teacher confidence and competence, and the school was successful in retaining 75% of its staff for the length of the project, which is a substantial improvement to the high teacher turnover of the past. A huge part of the success with this work is that HLS is a not-for-profit organization and is able to offer services based on the community's identified needs, irrespective of profit opportunity, but it also provides the opportunity for it to engage in fund development to make up the shortfall required to address the needs of students, teachers, and education leaders. Because of historical injustices perpetuated on First Nations peoples and communities, there were and continue to be many complexities that challenges the delivery of effective education programming. The resources required to best address these complexities far exceed current funding models predicated on provincial comparability. Targeted needs-based funding continues to be required. Our work is built on the foundation that was instilled within myself, the values and principles as lived by my late father, Gordon Oakes, who has a student center named after him at the University of Saskatchewan, which has a portrait of a team of horses, a red horse and white horse pulling a wagon. The painting has two messages that we follow. It illustrates the need and promise for First Nations children to be provided with a deep understanding and pride in their own identity of their community's cultural knowledges, teachings, and the language, as well as being provided with the competencies to learn the cunning of the white man so that they are able to choose whatever future they want. It also reflects the importance for First Nations and non-First Nations people to continue to work together in a good way to address the education needs and opportunities for all of our youth. Both Dana and I being here today reflects that team of horses. Thank you. Hi, nanaskom tinawao. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that presentation, right on time as well. We'll go via video conference to Chief John Martin, a member of the Chiefs Committee, as well as Anne Gros-Louis. Combined 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, my name is Annie Gros-Louis, Director of Educational Services at the First Nations Educational Council, and I'm accompanied by Mr. John Martin, Chief of Kaskapikeg. The FNEC is an association of First Nations pursuing the common objective of exercising full jurisdiction over the education of their communities, and which currently includes 8 of the 11 nations in Quebec. The mission of the FNEC is excellence, educational success, cultural pride, and the control of education by and for First Nations. It's in this sense that last July 14th, 22 member communities, the FNEC, and the Government of Canada signed a regional educational agreement in order to ensure equitable, predictable, and sustainable funding for preschool, elementary, and secondary education for the First Nations of the FNEC. This agreement will allow First Nations to work towards improving student outcomes in a context of financial stability and flexibility so that they can access and direct resources to better meet the academic needs of students. As for the FNEC, it offers an economy of scale and second-level services in education such as special education, professional development, language and cultural services, school administration, technology, and data governance, among others. The FNEC has adopted the Learning School model for its collaborative work with school teams and member communities. In this vision, the FNEC works upstream in a targeted manner with schools to develop teaching strategies based on data that's been gathered by the schools themselves. Finally, this agreement proposes clear accountability structures to operationalize and subsequently measure the progress, development, and achievement of these objectives, including academic performance, ancestral language learning, and access to specialized services.
Is that it? Okay, you fell short. Okay, perfect. Next up, thank you very much for that presentation. We have the First Nations with Schools Collective up next. 5 minutes.
Bonjour, hello, bonjour. Thank you so much. Thank you to the committee for the opportunity to appear before you today. The First Nation with Schools Collective is an internation table made up of 9 First Nation communities in Ontario and growing. Each participating First Nation administers their own schools, 1 from K to 6, 5 from K to 8, and 2 from K to 12 for over the last 3 to 4 decades. Many of those First Nation teachers back then became those First Nation principals who then became those frontline leaders fighting for First Nation school principal certification programs, First Nation education institutes, and Indigenous teacher education programs. Those education leaders had the same goal back then as the FNWC has today. We want high quality education systems that outperform provincial systems on a number of success indicators, including revitalizing the culture and graduation rates. This long-term change is clear evidence that self-determination results in positive student outcomes that have larger positive impacts many times over. Those leaders were community leaders like you and I. They saw a gap and worked to fill it, pushed hard with willing partners. So it's time. The children have raised their voices beginning in 2021. They are calling us to direct our attention to First Nation children living now, right now, currently attending their home schools, our youngest generations. Our children have waited far too long, at much cost to them, for the adults, you and I, to ready ourselves to deliver on this promise. The promise of NDRIPA signed in 2021 signals Canada's intention to deliver on this promise, to find and push down the barriers to our children's freedom, according to Article 14.1, to their right to a quality education, to their right to an education in their language, grounded in their culture, and to our responsibility as self-determining nations to provide it for them. A 2023 goal of the collective, therefore, is to seek a legislative response for full and unfettered First Nation control over First Nation education, supported by a distinctions-based First Nation education funding parity plus model. We have developed this model to take to a Canada First Nation table. The funding model is led by First Nations for First Nations. Because of the longstanding historical, cultural, and uniquely geopolitical circumstances that is First Nation Canada relations, provincial governments have no jurisdiction over our governing affairs as such, and yet Canada has tied First Nation education funding inextricably to provincial formulas, beginning in 2019 with its interim funding approach. We have done this work because we know that fair and equitable funding for First Nation education systems in community will have direct and immediate positive impact on graduation rates and success outcomes. And here's why. The means by which traditional knowledge is transferred, captured, stored, and safeguarded must evolve. First Nation lifelong learning systems privilege learning about the people, their lifeways, histories, and beliefs within a rich environment of love and caring. Our curriculum is about our wellness, our goodness, showcases what we want people to see about us, our community, and our people. Spiritual essence and kinship principles, their meaning and the place of these principles amongst all things learned must be reestablished as a core tenet of a First Nation curriculum. It was felt these concepts are largely absent from learning these days, and learner well-being is dependent on knowing and embracing these key lifeway principles. Communities must plan for learning in and on the homelands, no matter where community members are. First Nation learners long to belong, learn, practice what it means to be Haudenosaunee and or Anishinaabe in our case, on the land which are constitutionally protected rights according to Aboriginal Treaty and inherent rights exist. Curriculum design is different for First Nation and involves researching, writing histories largely untold in community with one another. Curriculum design requires a robust space for continuous Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe critical thinking in their intellectual traditions of each of the peoples. Time to think and reflect on the teachings for curriculum development and implementation is needed because knowledge transfer protocols are different from Western ways of educating. Time with elders to gather traditional knowledge is limited. The time is now to gather, record, pass along the traditions and knowledges. Therefore, emphasis on new teacher, adult learner supports in the transfer of knowledge about the ways of the people is of critical importance from the outset, all of which must be funded properly for a high quality education system as we define it can exist. And because it's International Women's Day, I want to showcase the importance of language. Ikwe is the word for woman in Ojibwe. It is connected to the word aki, the Ojibwe word for earth. Both are life givers. The word for old woman is mindamoya, which actually breaks down to one that holds it all together, which is the foundation of our most sacred governance structure, the family. Aki, the word for earth, is also rooted in the word for teacher, Kinomagit. It is the land that is our greatest teacher, and our relation to her sits at the center of these words. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our witnesses. We will begin the first round of questioning. We begin with the first round. We go to Gary Vidal for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to thank all of our witnesses for your attendance today. I know you all are giving up valuable time to be here and to share your knowledge and your experience with us, and we are looking for some answers to kind of push forward on some solutions to this challenge we face around graduation rates and success in schools. I'm going to start with Ms. Oakes and Ms. Braunberger, please. Ms. Oakes, you talked about the far-reaching consequences of a one-size-fits-all education system, and you went on to share the success that Headwater has had in this 2.5-year relationship at Thunderchild First Nation. And very specifically, you talked about measurable success at every level, being the teacher level, and increased engagement and urgency and intentionality and rigor in planning and delivery. You talked about improvement in traditions and ceremonies and values and language being incorporated into what was going on. But more importantly, and maybe the biggest thing, was the success of the actual students. And you talked about some very measurable and statistical proof of the success. It's my assumption that success that you had there would lead ultimately to greater graduations or to better graduation rates. I think that's the expectation, right? So in your brief, you never mentioned in your comments, but in your brief you talked about Indigenous Services Canada being a partner with you, and I think that's a great thing that they did that. My question for you, though, is that at the end of your pilot project or this program you did, was there any follow-up or any kind of outreach done by the department that would come back and talk to you about some of the success you had to determine if it would be scalable or replicable, or if it could be taken out and done in other places to achieve the same success you did there? Was there any follow-up or any work done that would allow you to share that success and see if we could replicate it?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that, Mr. Vidal. To answer your question, but before I do that, is to let you know that this is not a pilot. It's something that's going to be ongoing, and it's important that every First Nation participate in the work that we're doing and buy into it. The way I can answer that is I know that Thunderchild did the usual reporting that's required when you receive funding, but no follow-up was done from ISC with Headwater Learning. Thank you.
So does that surprise you in the sense of you actually achieved some very measurable successes, some very measurable outcomes, and there was no kind of, hey, how could we go replicate this? How could we go? I assume that would be a little bit of a disappointment because I think the opportunity is there for you to do that. And a short answer would be I'm assuming that would be an opportunity for you to replicate.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity that I think ISC might have, and again, this is my comments, and I think the work is required, and you've heard the data and the comments made by the other speakers that we're at an area in our history where we need to do some action, and we're doing some action. Of course, we're very disappointed.
Thank you. And let's move on a little bit. I think one of the other things in the conversations we've had and some of the presentation you've made, and I hope I'm not leaping to any conclusions here, so please clarify. In your experience, how important is kind of the governance, leadership, and instruction when improving education results on First Nations? I think it's bigger than just the teachers. There's a governance and a leadership role to play as well, and I just wonder if you'd have a comment on that at all.
Thank you again for the question. Yes, the governance, leadership, and instruction all ties in, but again, the biggest thing that needs to be included in your question is the whole aspect of culture and language. You need a strong governance model within the First Nation that's working with us. You also need stable leadership. You need education leadership who's got the skills to carry on the work that's required. Instruction, everything that we do is evidence-based. We do a lot of data. We do a lot of supports. One of the most common things that we always talk about is we're not a drive-by PD organization. We're there. The school that we worked with, and we're also working with another one right now, is our team, which includes Dana. We're in the schools 2 to 3 weeks out of the month supporting the teachers in regards to the culture and language. The culture and language needs to come from the community. We can't use a pan-Indianism approach to culture. The language model that we've been using is the total physical response, and it's just repeat, 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 be repetitive until they know it, and they're important. So everything is tied in together, but the governance structure within the First Nation needs to be stable and very committed to supporting the work within education.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Vidal, you are out of time. We go up next to the Liberal Party. It's 6 minutes to Jenica Atwin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses today. I can't help but notice that all of these incredible voices and speakers were women. So I'd really like to pick up on what Ms. Leslie White-Eye was commenting at the end of her presentation. Just if you could speak more broadly, what is the role of women, grandmothers, of the work that's been done in steering the importance again of culture and language, infusing this in education, and just, I have seen a lot more support by the federal government over the last, few years, but really that work has been being done in community. So you can just speak more generally to the role of women in the work that's ahead. Maybe just start with Ms. Oakes.
Thank you for that question. Dana and I always tease about this, so it's not very cultural, but the comment that I make is you need a woman to do a man's job. In the work that we're doing, sorry, but from myself as a Plains Cree woman, the woman is the backbone of everything that we do, as well as the other Algonquin tribes. I know that the woman is the backbone, and we need to elevate our women to that level where they're seen as the spoken and unspoken leaders, because they have the traditions and the ceremonies that they need to continue to retain. In my community of Niganit, ceremony is important, but it's the woman that determine when they occur and if they occur. So given that much power and authority, that needs to be seen as well within the education circles. So again, acknowledge International Women's Day. It's very important again. and it says a lot for a woman to be speaking here. Hi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the other witnesses, if you'd like to comment.
Thank you for that question. It's a really important one. I just want to shout out to Anna Marie, Betty, Joette, Patty, Maureen, Heather. They're all the education directors in the communities at the First Nation with Schools Collective. And the earlier comments were, you need good governance, you need stable leaders. The reality of their work is it's unbelievable. They run transportation contracts. They're developing the curriculum contracts. If they have the money to do it, they're hiring, they're retaining, they're recruiting, they're assessing their principals. They're running community engagement programs. They're trying to purchase resources. They're trying to save money on the purchase of resources. They're trying to negotiate education service agreements with their provincial school boards. They're sitting at meetings at Chiefs of Ontario. They're sitting at meetings at AFN. They're sitting at meetings at their PTOs. There's no way that this can continue. And that's why you have this governance issue. You have this stability issue. They get burnt out, and then we have to start all over with new ones. They have to get paid what they deserve because they're running entire systems, early years programs, post-secondary programs, secondary engagement, the elementary program, adult learning. And this is one person. But because we're women, we just keep barreling on. And I just want to, hold them up, stand those women up, because that's what they've been doing. And it's not sustainable, not without the right proper funding to build a central administration office that those provincial school boards enjoy. I know those superintendents, they don't do all of that. They delegate, and they can because they have the people in the office to do that. That's the shortfall of this funding approach. But miigwech for the question. Thank you.
And Madame Grosse-Louise.
Oui, merci. Écoutez,
Yes, thank you. So today is the Day of Women, and so I'd like to make a special request for the House. So I used 2 minutes and 50 seconds when I spoke, but I am here with my colleague John Martin as well, who was not able to speak. So I was wondering if we could give him his time to speak, if possible.
Oui, c'est d'accord avec moi.
Ms. Atwin, you still have a minute left.
Sure. So what I'll do is I'll just also use my time to give shout outs to the incredible women who are doing the work back home in my riding as well. Lisa Purley-Dutcher is running an immersion school. It's the first of its kind in this territory. That is the transformational work that we need to see more of.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair.
That are doing their work. Oh.
Monsieur le Président, je m'excuse.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you, but if I understood correctly, the request was for the fact that during opening statements, the Council for Education only used up 2 minutes and 50 seconds, so they would like to be able to finish their opening statement.
Yes, thank you, Madam Gill. We were just discussing that. There was that long pause after the first presentation. You are correct. They have about 2.5 minutes left. And what I was thinking of doing, letting Ms. Atwin finish her last. Well, I think she is done. She just wrapped it up. Then we'll let the Chief Martin do his 250 and then go back into the next round, which I believe is you next. So, Chief Martin, thank you. Sorry about that. You have about 2.5 minutes, if that's okay with the committee. Everyone's okay with that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll began bugul dio children the way a little go on. In John Martin Delwisi, there's a news armor which is Geskabegi. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm speaking about the First Nations Educational Regional Agreement. It's a historic agreement for us and a significant one. And it's significant because it took 15 years of research on this formula, and the work's been done all by First Nations people. It's a funding money model that has been entirely conducted and developed by and for First Nations, and it's based on the real needs of our students. While the agreement certainly has room for improvement, it is a step forward towards what we have been advocating for since 1972, Indian control of Indian education. But as the saying goes, it takes two to dance. Actually, in the context of a colonial governance, it takes three to dance. Provinces hold provincial jurisdiction in education, particularly when it comes to legislation and certification of education in the provincial programs. This last point is a crucial point in the Quebec context. Despite our Aboriginal rights and self-governance and self-determination in education, which we fully implement today as a result of the agreement, the province continues to arbitrarily impose the Charter of the French language onto First Nations education, mainly our students outside the community that go to school outside the community. The Quebec Charter gravely affects our efforts to revitalize our languages, demoting them to a third-level language status. It creates administrative hurdles to our students to access post-secondary education in Quebec and to receive an education in the language of their choice. It hinders critical professional services to students in the language of their choice. It also endangers the professionals that come to our communities where we speak only English. And to conclude this, the success of students' efforts is not just a one-way avenue. There's a responsibility on both the federal and the provincial governments. There's an important role to play in this. Both governments have a responsibility to undo the damage done over the past 150 years. And this can be done through real reconciliation and accommodation within the legislations and policies which are developed and currently create barriers and hinder the present and future efforts to provide a quality education while respecting First Nations values, traditions, and language. We ask you to help us put an end to the existing barriers to graduation rates and increase successful outcomes for our students. And I'd like to take the opportunity as well to acknowledge all the women present here today, as well as all the women in our community. The majority of our people here leading the community are, in fact, women. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Martin. And with 6 minutes, we go to the Bloc Québécois, Madame Gill.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to thank all the witnesses who are here with us today. It's been said multiple times by my colleagues here who are teachers themselves and have had experience teaching in the Indigenous community. That's the case for me. I'm from Côte-Nord. And the question of language is intrinsically linked to the question of learning and education outcomes, as well as identity. Now, things are different in different areas and different communities. In certain communities, languages are actually what we consider dormant languages. Whereas in other areas, Indigenous languages are very much alive and used in day-to-day life. And so what I would like to know is if you could give us a better idea of the needs of different communities. And I know that this varies throughout the country. But for example, Ms. Oakes is Plains Cree. We have members from the Education Council. If each of you could give us an idea of the needs that you have observed. So I'd like to get an idea also of the scale of the issues so that we can offer up some recommendations that are properly adapted to each of your requests. But feel free to share any recommendations that you have. Thank you.
Et Monsieur le Président, c'est vrai, j'ai pas...
And Mr. Chair, I know I didn't choose anyone to begin. Ms. Saint-Germain, Ms. Oakes, and then we can continue through everyone who is here.
Thank you for the question. Our Indigenous languages are in a vital state, and we really do need to work towards revitalization. When we look across the country and the funding that goes out to help revitalize our Indigenous languages, it's not enough. And even with the passing of the Indigenous Languages Act, it hasn't provided sustainable funding and long-term funding to build up the languages within the communities. We do see examples where First Nations languages are spoken. There are examples of immersion schools that exist. The Mi'kmaq have some immersion schools that are thriving, and the language is doing better than other parts of the country. However, that's not consistent across the country, and we really do need that long-term sustainable funding to see our languages developed both within the education system and outside of the education system.
Thank you as well for that question. I appreciate that. I sat here thinking about the what would be the best answer. Of course, the biggest thing, as was just repeated, is funding is huge. We know that, right? Another area that I see is training. We need to provide the proper training for our people in the front lines in regards to the best way. Utilizing and including the written form is not the way. It's got to be a form that lifelong speakers have been taught. Because if you don't meet the needs of within the communities, it's not going to be met. And in the areas that I've come from, it varies. It seems like the further north you go in the prairie provinces, it's more available. It's more alive. The more south that you go, it's dying. So we need to come up with a strategy that's developed at the AFN as well as the regional level within our regional PTOs, and our leadership needs to take the lead. Thank you.
J'ai de la difficulté, Monsieur le Président, à voir les...
Mr. Chair, I can't see the participants online very well, but if they would like to add something, the Conseil en Éducation, the Education Board, and the First Nations with Schools Collective, if they would like to also give an answer if we still have time, Mr. Chair.
Donc, je peux poursuivre.
Yes, so I can jump in. As you know, education is the first way that we preserve our languages. There are, like you said, languages that are being used today, those that are in dormancy, and those that are used. In some regions, there are fewer and fewer speakers of a language, and we need to take advantage of these speakers' skills. An individual that still speaks a language is sort of like a library for this language. And then we have our specific territorial languages that we need to consider. When we work with teachers in different schools, no matter what the region, what we need to keep in mind is that the local language of the land is so important. Thank you.
I'll add that. Oh, sorry.
No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll speak after you.
Make Chief. I'll just add that we need full-time language coordinators to develop the programs, monitoring, assessments, the materials to support the teachers. And we need full language immersion funding, just as school boards enjoy for French in every one of those schools. And we also need grade development for the inclusion of fluent speakers, so they're paid equitably and fairly for their contributions to our schools. Miigwech.
Okay, I have to jump in here. That has been a bit over time here. We're going now to the NDP. Lori Idlout, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think Chief John wants to respond. I will wait for him to respond first before I jump into my questions. Thank you.
Joe, well, Arlene, thank you. With regards to the situation in this province, Quebec, a lot of our English-speaking communities, First Nation communities, are struggling. I come from a Mi'kmaq community. Our households right now, we have approximately 13% of the households that still use the language. I'm familiar with many communities across the Maritimes where the language is practically non-existent. So we are in a situation where our languages in our area are on the verge of extinction. And the language laws that Quebec have recently passed has had a significant impact in the continuation of the loss of our language. The space is taken up where you have to compete with modern day technology, children walking around with their phones connected to a different world, a different language. And then the criteria by the French Charter that's imposed on our people now is much more stringent than it was. In my community right now, I'm looking at 8 out of 10 students that go into adult education, which were in the English school system. They dropped out, and they don't have the French credits that they need to be able to graduate high school. This prevents them from gaining access to post-secondary education in Quebec. In my community, we've been struggling with this law for the past 40 years, and it's had a very significant impact on the development of capacity in our community and our people. It is a law that is very colonialistic. It is continuing the job of extinguishment of our language and our culture. And we really need the federal government to step in and to do something to support First Nations. We've tried with the Quebec government to seek accommodation within the legislation, and there absolutely no acceptance for accommodation. So I just wanted to, for the government to be aware of this, that our situation is critical. It has an impact on the loss of our language, but it also has a very important capacity on my community in terms of developing capacity for our future generations, our future leaders. We lose a significant number of students every year as a result of that. Well, audio.
Thank you. I have a question for Leslie, who works for the First Nations Collective Agency, where you are. Seems that you are doing a very good work, and you continue to pursue to stand ground where education on First Nations languages are concerned. Now, you are striving for more opportunities to have this continue to grow. What problems do you face when you are not having your needs met?
Thank you for that important question, MP Iluit. The first part of it is the funding. We've had every 80% of the participating communities of the collective undertake an immersion program, only to be faced with walls because there wasn't enough funding to build the program prior to the teacher entering the classroom. They needed assessments, they needed lesson plans, they needed a curriculum. They needed somebody to coordinate all of that with skills. they're out there, but they're also you have to compete and pay them properly to do the work. The second important and most important piece is that we have the speakers. They're not OCT qualified, but they can provide that type of conversational, immersed language, which is what our young kids need, quite easily with the support of a teacher. And that type of funding is just not available in this current interim funding approach. There's a real need here to take advantage of what I'll say is this last decade of fluent speakers. And we can, I believe, and we've seen the model, Renee talked about it. If you give that conversational language to these children, at grade 1, 2, 3, 4, kindergarten or early years, that language dying of a language goes away. That to me is an investment. You're going to get far more return on a dollar spent in a First Nation school offering immersion for real change to happen in language recovery. Miigwech.
Unfortunately, we are out of time on this round, Ms. Idlout. We thank you very much for your questions. Chief Martin, do you have your hand up again, or is that just has been up since you spoke last?
I can't feel my arm anymore. It's been up too long.
Just checking. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for another round, but we do like to thank our witnesses for their valuable contribution and the great discussion we've had so far. We are going to briefly suspend while we change over for the next panel, and we thank everyone for being here, either in person or remotely, and we look forward to more conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Cook, you're in person, so lucky you. You get to go first. If you want to kick it off, you have 5 minutes to give your opening statement. Then we will go to our panelists online for 5 minutes each for them, and then have some questions. Dr. Cook, it's all yours, 5 minutes.
I'm Catherine Cook. I'm a medical doctor, and I am Métis from Manitoba. I'd like to thank you for including us in this important study. In 2020, I began serving as the University of Manitoba's first Vice President Indigenous. My goal has been to address the gaps and barriers to equitable access for Indigenous success and achievement in education and in healthcare for Indigenous people through systems change. Today, 8.8% of the 30,000 students at the U of M self-declare as Indigenous. It is the largest Indigenous student population in Canada, but the Indigenous population of Manitoba is 18%, so it isn't reflective. We must address this gap and work together to ensure Indigenous students pursuing post-secondary education and training are receiving the same quality of K-12 education and have the same sense of belonging. The challenges that existed when I was a student still exist today. Remote geography, limited capital investment for education and training sites, and program funding for education services remain major barriers. The ambiguity of financial responsibility, scope of educational practice, and potential for areas requiring government collaboration and community partnership have never been clear. As a result, even when communities or tribal councils establish productive partnerships for program delivery, the capital investment in infrastructure on federal reserve lands is almost non-existent for training and insufficient for the programming needs. When I began my tenure, my team committed to engage Indigenous community partners in strategy development, and then COVID hit, further revealing inequities. Indigenous students living in rural and remote areas identified challenges for engaging in online learning, such as poor internet connectivity and technology, a lack of appropriate study spaces in busy households, and a shortage of academic resources in their communities. Many of these challenges were shared by urban-based Indigenous students. As the pandemic continued, we hosted engagement sessions where participants identified other barriers to post-secondary, such as experiencing culture shock, homesickness, and racism. The high costs of education, relocation and living expenses, and fear of losing their connection to culture. This is not new information. We must work collaboratively to build a fluid and comprehensive continuum of education. Education is the most significant social determinant of good health and wellness for individuals and for communities. Without it, we cannot access employment that will support and sustain our families. We won't have choices for good housing, food security, healthy living, and control over our lives. Everyone must feel that we have something to contribute to our families and to society in general. Living in poverty because of a lack of education is the ultimate life sentence of unhappiness and despair. We need to look at the organizational structure of Indigenous education and find new delivery models. U of M recently entered a partnership with the MasterCard Foundation's LAV program, providing the financial opportunity to explore new opportunities that were co-designed by First Nations, Métis, and Inuit partners. Our main focus is to return education to the community as much as possible. One example is a new learning hub in Pinemutang First Nation. This hub provides a space with excellent internet, technology, and wraparound supports that allows students attending any Manitoba post-secondary institution to access online classes and programs with a goal of developing in-person, in-community delivery of training that's identified as priority by the community. It's the first of a series of hubs that will be established through Manitoba. The learning hubs address some of the previously mentioned systemic challenges, and they also keep young people near language speakers, culture, and support systems. They provide opportunities for inspiring and mentoring students still in K-12, and they increase the chances of graduates staying in the community to work, which will contribute to building capacity and community. We're grateful to offer our experiences working in this area. The federal government has a responsibility to invest in developing a continuum of education and to support capital investment for training and education opportunities. The continuum requires a commitment for a fulsome partnership with school divisions, with tribal councils, post-secondary institutions, provincial, federal, and Indigenous governments, and with partners in industry and philanthropy. Together, we can develop a comprehensive approach to a continuum of education that will enhance access and support through K-12 and will bridge entry to and through post-secondary to career development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cook. Right on time. Perfect. Appreciate it. We'll go to video conference now. Let's go over to Kelsey Wrightson, the Executive Director. Kelsey, you have 5 minutes.
Wonderful. Well, my name is Kelsey. I'm the Executive Director at Dechinta Center for Research and Learning, and I'm joining you from Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories today. I have the great honor and privilege of working at Dechinta, where we've been delivering award-winning Indigenous-led land-based post-secondary programming since 2010. I'm incredibly grateful for the invitation to share with you as legislators and decision makers what I have the privilege of learning from Indigenous learners every day as we work to support Indigenous educational success. Dechinta's classrooms are the land, and our programs are as diverse as the North. Here in Chief Dragi's territory, you'll hear Willaday Yati and children's laughter echoing across camp as students learn about research methods or land claims or the impacts of climate change on food security. You'll see infants bundled on snowmobiles and elders in the backs of toboggans heading out to camp where they visited as young people. They are all on an educational journey that brings them home and heals. Dechinta's family-inclusive programming was co-designed by Indigenous faculty and elders to create education models that celebrate the knowledge of Indigenous communities and help mitigate barriers that folks are facing when accessing post-secondary. We create learning spaces for young people, which enables parents to participate in education, and for those young people to see their family members and their community as learners and teachers enables them to see themselves in expansive education and employment pathways. In order to support educational outcomes of children, we collectively need to be committed to the educational success of parents, family members, and community. And if we want to support families and communities to learn, we need to create learning spaces that celebrate the strengths and transform people's relationships to education. University-level accredited programming at Dechinta lasts between 1 or 6 weeks and is open to people of all ages. For some students, it's the start of their education journey, and for others, it renews their commitment to learning. In the past year, we've had over 200 applicants to our program. 40% of those applicants needed Indigenous approaches to health and wellness, and 20% requested childcare to support their success. Our job is to create programming that's accessible to diverse learners, providing comprehensive wraparound supports to ensure their success and open up diverse education and employment pathways by ensuring that the credentials registered students obtain are portable. In this, we ensure that students are supported and celebrated in every step they take towards achieving their educational goals. Research demonstrates that the stories people tell themselves has a direct effect on their learning outcomes. When learners don't believe they can learn, they don't. And the incredible thing is that as much as these negative stereotypes dampen achievements, affirmation nurtures success. And crucially, confidence of a learner in one area impacts their success in others. So when we see someone thriving on the land and being celebrated for their skills and knowledge or the care they take with their community, this will impact the success they have in other areas of learning. Long-term and predictable investments by Canada in community-directed Indigenous education enables us to build relationships, create trust, and create new programs. This is the call the government answered when supporting Dechinta through Canada's comprehensive approach to the Arctic Policies Framework, and recognizing the centrality of education and research in supporting a healthy North. It directly supports people of all generations to imagine themselves in education. It creates meaningful work and strong and healthy communities, and new programming that reflects the diversity of educational needs and pathways. This requires the creation of a learning space where Indigenous learners, teachers, and elders feel comfortable, where we're learning and healing together. I'll leave you with a quote from Yellowknives Dene First Nation member and student of Deshinta, Bertha Dragies. She says, "The first sight of the self-governance community at Deshinta brought me back 4 decades when I felt the cold, crisp air on my face. It felt like a dream I could finally wake up to. I felt sure of myself after practicing my culture and tradition. It all came clear. I am home. I am here on my homeland. I came back to myself, my land, and my people. And I thought to myself, maybe I was not lost, just disconnected." Masicho.
Thank you very much for that testimony. We now go for another 5-minute round. We are now going to Blair Gould for 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Blair Gould. I'm the Executive Director for Mi'kmaq, or MK for short. I had hoped to witness in person. However, I am here at our annual symposium today and tomorrow, sharing and witnessing the efforts and excellence in each and every community, celebrating them and planning with them. As MK, we actively engage our communities by customizing service delivery models that best fit their needs and aspirations. I am a product of Mi'kmaq. I went to school in my community of Eskasoni from kindergarten to grade 12, and even some post-secondary opportunities. I did not learn English until I was in grade 3, and at that time, I had my first non-Indigenous teacher. For most of my schooling, I was taught by Mi'kmaq educators. Today, I am the Executive Director for Mi'kmaq, and just 25 years ago, discussions at our leadership table had a vision for children like me. They would have an opportunity to succeed and would be destined to become leaders. So as I sit here, I often reflect that I am very grateful for those decision makers who made decisions for children like me. And then to today, where I have the honor and privilege of working with them to reflect on where we come from and into the new direction we are shaping, informed by data, informed by our leaders in education. Mi'kmaq has been in existence since 1997. The journey started in 1992. During that time period, our graduation rates have drastically improved from 20% to 90%. The 90% is consistent and has been for about a decade, maybe more. We are the leaders in Indigenous education. We walk in that path with great respect, responsibility, and humility. What has continued to evolve for us over the last 2 decades is our commitment and passion in education. We set the bar higher for ourselves, and we work to achieve those desires and those visions and those goals. We are innovative. We truly believe that the key to our success is because we work collectively to promote excellence in Mi'kmaq education. Our model supports communities as they exercise jurisdiction in education to educate the youth according to their values and customs. We offer guidance to our communities across many areas, such as academics, healthy living, language and culture, but their autonomy has allowed them to shape and deliver programming that would otherwise be missed if we mandated a one-size-fits-all model. Even though our communities have jurisdiction over their own education, our leadership is committed to working together. The chiefs from each of our communities make collective decisions about important matters such as finances and capital infrastructure. They have made those hard decisions and sacrificed additions to their own communities for years to another community who may be on pursuit in exercising their jurisdiction within their own community so that they can have an opportunity to build. They support each other knowing that what they do is for the betterment of the nation, and it seems to work for us. Our student attainments and achievements in elementary and secondary, not just in academia, but strongly rooted in their identity, translates into great success in post-secondary. We have high excellent rates in post-secondary, and their achievements continue on. We're not here to say that everything is perfect. We struggle, like most, but we wanted to reinforce that working together for us has certainly rewarded us in many great ways, and we wanted to share a little bit of our journey. We continue to stand together as a united front, and we encourage every community, learner, teacher, to reach for their goals and to show the world what we can do when we work together. Malalia.
Thank you very much for our witnesses and all their testimony today, and everyone was under time today, so that is a great start. I'd like to welcome also to the committee Shelby Cramp-Nyman, my geographical neighbor. We won't put her on the hot seat yet to start with questions, but we will open up with the Conservative round. 6 minutes goes to Bob Zimmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to thank the witnesses for appearing, and especially Dr. Cook at the end. We had a little incident coming in, and I tried to race her up the stairs, but anyway, I'll leave it there. But thanks for appearing today. I sure appreciate your experience too as a physician, traveling around and just serving our northern communities and our communities at large, and just thank you for that. My questions, I'll start off with Kelsey Wrightson from Dechinta Center. I'm a former teacher in northern BC. I taught trades even though I had 2 degrees. Actually, I have my red seal and I have 2 degrees in other things, and really found right in the middle of seeing the value of both sides of education, whether it be sort of in a degree aspect or a trade. But my question to you, Kelsey, seeing that your programs, I'm looking at your website right now, you have some very innovative ways to relate to students in northern communities. And I was wanting to know your levels of success, and you've talked a little bit about that already, but do you see them making the jump over to these other professions that are going to be needed, whether it's being a carpenter like I was, or getting my degree in education like that as well? Do you see these kind of innovative ways helping with those aspects of education, really helping students really get to where they need to go?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. I'll start by saying that in our programming, our success rate in getting students to complete programming is close to 98%. So in the last 5 years, we've only had 2 students unable to complete their program, and they're actually coming back this upcoming semester to complete their program. And I think you're right. What we are aiming to do is reach out and reach to students who might not see themselves in education, who might not see themselves in different kinds of career paths, and demonstrate that not only do they have the skills and knowledge, but they can actually achieve the diverse kind of employment and educational outcomes that they might need. So in our follow-ups with alumni, we've seen a lot of folks take on really diverse employment opportunities. We have a number of folks go into post-secondary, and we've had a number of folks working within their community. So what we really see is that the addition to programming helps them to reconnect to themselves, reconnect to their land and community, and sets them up for success in whatever pathway they choose to take next.
Yeah, well, I commend you for your success rate. The one thing we've talked to different panel presenters in this committee about, and it's the reason why we're studying this, is that it's based on a very low graduation rate, and we want to see that improved. And we've had the ministry here a few days ago that seems to just want to endlessly study the issue instead of actually doing something about it. So I would just challenge the ministry to reach out to folks like you, Kelsey. You've got seems a good grasp on how to get kids past the finish line and beyond into a very positive career post-secondary. So I'll move on to Dr. Cook. Again, really appreciate what you've done in the North. And maybe just in a similar topic, similar way that Kelsey, what I was asking of Kelsey is, how do you see that we can address this low graduation rate in ways that really work? Because one thing that I saw, I've been up to Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and Yukon, and a big part of the problem, even if you're going to be a tradesperson, let's say, is you have to leave your community and go thousands of kilometers away somewhere else, distant from your very close families that you've been a part of all your lives, to go get trained and then come back. So some don't want to make that jump. Is it part of being trained in communities up there? Is it that? How do we see that success rate get better? Dr. Cook.
I think it's different for everyone. We certainly have been working with our communities, particularly through these learning hubs. And initially the focus, so I'm coming at this specifically from a post-secondary perspective. We do have the privilege of having a collective of all of our post-secondaries working together in Manitoba. And so we've been able to promote what is important to the youth in their communities. So when you talk about the trades, we haven't traditionally supported students going into the trades. It's been almost always a focus on university. So when we're talking with community and really working with them to look at what their priorities are, it can be a whole continuum of things. Sometimes for these kids, just showing up in a program is success. So we need to honor that and celebrate that with them. It's, I think one of the challenges with trades as well is that we have young people who want to go into the trades, but they don't have a place to apprentice in their own communities all the time. So I think collectively we could come together and come up with some ideas about how that could be accomplished with partnership with the communities, but also with industry on what does that look like to be successful? How are the graduate? And I think that people know that there's a pathway. The intent to stay on track, come back and get your program success rate, even if you've left, is more accessible and more likely to occur.
Okay, thank you very much. That was 6 minutes. Appreciate the question and answer period. No, it was right on time. No, it's all good, Dr. Cook. We go now to the Liberal Party. We have Michael McLeod for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for presenting today. Very, very interesting to hear your presentations. My question is for Kelsey from Chinta, the Northwest Territories. Kelsey, I think you've heard it. I've certainly heard it as I travel to the communities, how leaders talk about education as a way forward for our people, for the Indigenous people, for the young people that are growing up in the communities. However, many of the parents, the grandparents, I think, many times express concern because when the student is going to move to post-secondary, it means they're leaving their culture behind. And a lot of times it means they're going to be moving away from their family. Because often in the northern Indigenous communities, our youth travel to cities in the south to go to post-secondary institutions. And many times they end up staying there because there's lack of opportunities or there's a growing sense of disconnection with their home communities. So I wanted to ask if you could speak to how ensuring Northern and Indigenous students have post-secondary opportunities closer to home can lead to better outcomes for both students and for their communities.
Masi Cho, thank you so much for that question. And it really raises a lot of things that we have heard over and over and over again from students, from parents, from elders, the concern of people moving away, of losing their connection to family, and also from students not wanting to leave their community, not wanting to leave the supports that they have. And that's part of the reason why our programming is designed to be so mobile, is designed to be delivered in communities where we can go and hear from community leadership, hear from community members, hear from students what their priorities are, and then deliver programming in a strength-based way that allows people to stay in their homes, to be surrounded by the incredible wealth of knowledge that is their community and their lands. And this, I think, not only supports the success of students in being able to, achieve those educational outcomes, but it also supports the whole community in really reestablishing a new relationship to what education can be, and that it can mean a reinvestment, a recommitment, a revitalization of their knowledge, a revitalization of the relationships that they have to each other and to the land. And I think the other important thing is that this knowledge economy creates incredible employment opportunities. In the last 3 years, Dechinta has been able to hire over 60 people in northern communities to do meaningful work that allows them to connect and reconnect to their families and their homelands and keep themselves really well. Masicho.
My next question is about funding. If Dechinta is able to secure longer-term funding, what will that sense of security enable your organization to accomplish?
Long-term funding, I think we've heard many times, is so important to being able to establish stable long-term relationships with the communities that we're working in. What we have been able to do since the first commitment of funding, first long-term funding agreement from the federal government, is actually say to communities and say to students, we will be here for the next 5 years. So you can plan on us being able to provide employment opportunities. You can plan on us to be able to support your education. If you're 16, we'll be here when you're ready to go to university. We'll provide those steps and those pathways. And that is so fundamental to being able to actually provide the real foundation of what community-based and community co-developed programming is, which is the strong relationships that are necessary to make it happen.
My last question is about some of the comments we hear that a lot of the students that have to go to post-secondary institution in the South essentially are turning their backs on being Indigenous because they don't have opportunity to practice their culture. They have to move away from their families. And at the same time, we see Dechinta, which is an educational institution, building sod huts, sod houses that haven't been done for a long time in our history. So can you just talk about how you can do it and what that attraction is for your students?
I think it's just that I learn and I see this in my colleagues every day, the students every day. I hear it in the words of our students reflecting on the programs, that being able to connect to their community and their culture is so empowering and completely transforms how they see themselves and the confidence they have. So we have students who are, learning how to tan hides from the first time and remembering what that was like when they were at their grandmother's feet, watching them practice hide tanning. And I think that really provides the really important foundation for not only cultural revitalization, but also building incredibly strong communities and continuing to pass that knowledge on to the next generation. When we have our harvesters out on the land, bringing food into the communities, you can see the pride that they have, the pride in their ability to share their knowledge and share their skills and have that reflected back and celebrated by the elders that they respect is an incredible thing to witness.
Thank you very much, Mr. McLeod, for your questions. That was 6 minutes. We now go to the Bloc Québécois. Madame Gill, 6 minutes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to thank all the witnesses, Ms. Ryson, Ms. Gold, and Ms. Cook, for being here with us today. Over our last few meetings, we've spoken of women And I'd like to wish you a happy International Women's Day, of course. We know that we have much work to do for Indigenous women. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in terms of Indigenous education, there is a difference between boys and girls in terms of obstacles that they face. And I myself am a teacher. I've worked with many Indigenous women in schools. And I'd like to know if there are certain solutions that could be used in order to mitigate these issues, to ensure that women stay in school and then be able to go integrate the labor market. So for women and for men, I would like to know if you have some suggestions. I'm looking for the right word, but some things that would help us to increase education outcomes. So Ms. Cook, then Ms. Wrightson, and Ms. Good. Thank you.
I was just waiting for it to finish. Thank you very much for the question. It's really an interesting question. We find in our institutions or organizations that we tend to have more Indigenous women seeking post-secondary education than men. I think part of that could be the traditional roles in community that men assume, it's a challenge for both young women and young men. Frequently, it is easier for the women to achieve more supports through family, I believe. Certainly, we've had many issues where women end up becoming the matriarchs of the family, as you would expect, achieve a post-secondary education and support the children in the family and with the support of their partner. But most important in all of this is the support of community and family. I don't really have anything more to add just at this point, but it's very, very much a familial support network that is so critical to success for women and men. Thank you.
I'd like to echo that. The support of community is so important. In our last 3 years, 94% of our graduates in our programs are actually women. And so that, I think, is a result of the kinds of barrier-reducing programming decisions that we made, which was to include families in all of our programs. So if a student is admitted to addition to program, they're welcome to bring their whole family to attend alongside of that. But it also means listening to students and making sure we're creating programming that meets their needs. And so we do a really comprehensive intake and make sure that we're reaching folks of all genders and creating programming that's going to be meaningful for them.
Thank you for your question. We have achieved about an 82% attendance rate over the last decade and a half, I would say. That has been a stable indicator for us. And credit to the successes that we see. A lot of our focus on boys and girls in elementary is attendance. We know that if they attend school regularly, that their chances of success in middle school, junior high, secondary, and into post-secondary are greater. And so we cannot stress and emphasize enough the importance of attendance in all years, but especially in elementary. We create a lot of opportunities and targeted opportunities, I would call them. So we have cohorts to create, just recently and currently a desire to have more early childhood educators, as it's a huge need in our communities. And so we design and create the cohorts with our partners. And certainly for us here in Nova Scotia, We have a great working relationships with the institutions, the Nova Scotia community colleges, where we redesign programs that they have already offered, giving them a Mi'kmaq focus and ensuring that the program delivery is appropriate to what we desire. We do a lot of specific targeting programming in girls in trade, for example, where we want to see more girls in trade. We do a lot of specific initiatives around wellness, and one of the more successful ones that we have heightened a little bit more is boys in wellness, because it is just as important for boys to be able to be in a safe space to talk about their well-being as well. And certainly for us, wellness is just all around the map. A priority. COVID has certainly opened a lot of gaps that we are seeing and triaging at this time. But, I think we would be a little bit not focused if we didn't engage community. And so in every efforts from, starting as early as grade 5, we engage parents in their attainment, because parents play a critical role in the future of their children's education. They are likely the decision makers for where their children will go, be it trade, be it university. So we engage parents in a try-a-trade model where they accompany their children to see the benefits in working in trades, for example. We have trades halls, apprenticeship halls, things like that we can access. And then a lot of transition as well, and opportunities to secondary students, middle school students as well, in university and attainment. And we have created a lot of pathways, and those pathway themes are in education, health, entrepreneurship, business, STEM. And so we create all of these opportunities that if you want to become a plumber, we have a pathway created for you. If you want to become a veterinarian, we have a pathway for you. And so that children know early on that the choices that they make in junior high, high school, will elevate them into these pathways that they see themselves in. And so we certainly encourage a lot of efforts, to our communities, to our parents, especially because, students are students, but the parents are the boss, especially in Mi'kmaq territory.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gould and Ms. Gill, for those questions and that answer. We did go a bit over time, but we will now go to the NDP. 6 minutes to Lori Idlout.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I thank all the witnesses that have come here to share their progresses. Although I speak mainly in my language, I will be asking my questions in English, so it will be clearer. I'm thankful that we have interpreters, but I will be speaking in English, asking in English. Thank you.
My questions will be to Blair Gould, just so you know. I wanted to share briefly about my life history and just so you know, it might need to be a trigger warning. My dad had died by suicide when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And because of that, I was raised in the foster care system. And because of the foster care system, I grew up in several different communities. And in all these different communities, I went to several different schools. So my story is very common when it comes to Indigenous people's histories. We have very inconsistent education. We don't have regular teachers a lot of the times. We don't have consistent care. So despite that history, to get back to who I am, I was able to complete my grade 12. I was able to get my undergraduate degree and I was able to go to law school and become a lawyer. I think part of the reason I am who I am today was because my education included teachings from elders, from teachers, and always elders and teachers and all my foster parents telling me how important it is to know how to survive, to have coping skills. And I wondered, Blair, you touched on this a little bit in your presentation about pathways, because I'm very struck by the success that you have at MK. And I think MK really needs to be modeled by many more jurisdictions. And I wonder if you could share more about how you're able to use the strengths of the Mi'kmaq to make sure that you're having success with your students.
Thank you. Absolutely, and thank you for sharing your story, Ms. Gay, for the loss of your dad. We have, just to touch a little bit on the foster system, one of the greatest things around having jurisdiction over education is the ability to create the partnerships that we desire, that we want. And so it's an elevated voice, especially in this province. I talk often about the relationships that we have with government, despite whatever party is in leadership. That has never faltered. The relationships have stayed the same for us. And so it is because we have such an elevated status, so to speak, around jurisdiction, and that autonomy is greatly recognized here. One of the things that I will mention is, in those partnerships, we have sectoral self-government agreement here in education, but a lot of the sectoral agreements and models currently in social work, social assistance, social in general, and health transformation, are sprigging here. So I it's not an anomaly kind of thing, but it's, a testament, I think, to our unity at the end of the day. We have a very low rate of child apprehension here, and a lot of it is kinship placement. And so children, we don't see a lot of instances being moved between homes to homes or communities to communities. And also, we work closely with the Child and Family Services based in Mi'kmaq community to ensure that the child is center. And so it's very child-centered focused. It's very holistic when it comes to the transitioning of programming and the transitioning of care, perhaps from parents to the kinship. One of the things for us, also just to kind of hit some of the points that you talked about, elders in residence is something that we greatly promote, not just in elementary, secondary education, but also in universities. And so this is something that the province has modeled after us. Elders in residence is something that is quite accessible here in any institution where there are students who are Mi'kmaq. We really also emphasize the community presence in our schools, and every community does it differently, but that is a common priority amongst communities, that community must be present in the school. So that means elders, parents, community people, fishers, trappers, all of these folks are part of the curricula in, designed ways that is unique to them. And speaking about the pathways, we have right now in post-secondary, we're on a pathway in our own vision to create our own accredited institution. It may not be a physical institution in these early phases, but it is something that we're actively seeking. we have a lot of Mi'kmaq care when it comes to duty and care that we feel to our students in these areas. So we want those pathways are, just to kind of name a few in health, there are things like the LPNs, RNs, CAs, doctors. In education, it's administrators, it's teacher aides, EAs, teachers themselves. Social, entrepreneur, business, trades and human services, and STEM. So a lot of the service industry, because our desire
Ms. Gould,
is not just...
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt. You're way over time, and our meeting is growing tight with time. We do have a quick abbreviated round, if the committee's okay with that, 2 minutes each, if that's okay with everyone. See thumbs up all around. Okay, 2 minutes. Each party will get a round. So, Mr. Vidal, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to keep my question really brief because of time. So I want to thank Ms. Gould for bringing up the matter of attendance in your comments a few minutes ago. So my question is actually really, really quick. It's my opinion in talking to some people recently that increased attendance leads to increased reading rates, which leads to increased or better outcomes, which would ultimately lead to better graduation rates. So my question quickly, maybe starting with Ms. Gould and then going to Ms. Wrightson and Dr. Cook, if you want to answer the question as well, that's great. Do you track attendance rates? Do you actually measure that against outcomes? And I want just to comment on why you believe that's really important, if you do, obviously.
Very quickly, I think, to answer your question, yes, we do. And we follow and analyze cohorts as they come in. And so it is not uncommon for us to look at a cohort, let's say grade 1, again, in grade 5, grade 7, just to see and compare where those kids are at, not just because we believe that attendance leads to attainment, it leads to success overall. And so this is something that we consistently look in on. And we weren't always at an 82% average as well. COVID has impacted that a little bit. And so we're building those systems and policies, strengthening those policies back up. Because as you know, I'm a testament to that, I guess. I don't need to be there to be present. So it's something that we have to evolve. Our students are just getting smarter and savvier. So for us, absolutely, we look at data as a way to inform every next step that we take. We're very proud of the Mi'kmaq and Awanui Student Information System, which is a customized system developed by Mi'kmaq. Thank you.
Okay, that's 2 minutes. Thank you very much. I will be tight with the timing on everybody, just because we are running out of time. We go now to the Liberals. I do have Jaime Batiste. Yep, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Walaliak Blair, for your presentation today. MK has been kind of showcased as a model between the departments as an AFN as succeeding in what you're doing, and I understand that you've signed just now a 10-year agreement in 2019. For all those First Nations out there that would like to replicate the successes that MK has made, what would you recommend on how communities get to a sectoral self-government from within communities that want to work together on this?
We are a very big promoter of sectoral self-government agreements. It comes first with a lot of unity and a united front amongst a collective who are willing to work together. Remember when MK started in 92, the discussion, it was with all 13 communities here in Nova Scotia. And at the time when we negotiated the agreement, 9 communities were ready. I'm very proud that we're, 12 community member collective today. And so that didn't stop us early on in 97. We were respective of the readiness that needed to happen for the other communities. And so for us, the 10-year agreement, of course, offers a lot of time to get things done rather than, by the time you implement the agreement in year 1, by year 2, year 3 of that agreement, you already need to go into negotiations, to set up the next agreement. So for us, we've done a lot of presentations across the country for sectoral self-government agreements. It appears that there are a lot of communities going through the REA route, so the Regional Education Agreement route, which is not that different, but not quite the same. And so we're obviously just a step above promoting the REAs into more of a sectoral agreement.
Okay, that is 2 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Actually, that's 2 minutes exact. We will go now to Ms. Gill, 2 minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have a last question for all three witnesses. We've been hearing about funding. It's what everyone expects from the federal government, funding that is recurrent and that we can trust. But are there any other recommendations that you would have for the committee, emergency recommendation or something more longer term? Ms. Wrightson and Ms. Gould, thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I think, as you indicated, stable long-term funding is really important for us to be able to continue to invest in the relationships to deliver new, innovative programming. But part of that is also having a really healthy communication with the government, making sure that we're able to share the successes of our programming, making sure that we're able to ensure that everything is being measured according to evaluation systems that make sense for the Indigenous communities that we're working in, and just having an open communication and trust established between ourselves, the communities, and the government that we work alongside. Merci.
Thank you. This is a very good question because often we feel that we're limited and we wish that we weren't, because often our innovation gets the best of us. And so we are a lot more, on a different trajectory when it comes to different programmings and services that we offer, that often budget announcements or budget allocations come usually when we're about 5 to 7 years in implementation. And so that is one limitation that we often face. One of the areas where we would wish for increased funding is, of course, wage parity for our teachers, because that retains them and that allows for us to grow our system and not compete with, the public school system, for example.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gould. I'm sorry, I do have to cut you off. Maybe Ms. Idlout will allow you to continue. I'm very sorry to have to cut you off. I do apologize. We lose translation services right at 6:45, so we are tight here. 2 more minutes, Ms. Idlout.
Payanamik Blairmouth apere magama takwa sector self-government ukaw kawyait kanok tikiw tilaw mga se tana process nga unikaw ti yung nakpiyok so klutakwa asingit no nakakak si mayuit itrak si man nakpata kanok ikayok tuigayak pigito kisiyak tikan ni kullugit takwa pimaryong mata kanok pigiyako tikarok pisi.
Be honest with you. Just hold 1 second. We did not get translation on our end here.
Oh, I'm sorry. First, I'm sorry, I forgot to press the button. The question was to Blair Gould. How did you start your process to get your self-governance? And because this is very important information that we need to hear. So what did you have to do to get to where you are today?
Thank you. And just a sort of brief historical timeline. In 1991, we approached the then Department of Indian Affairs and we wanted a Mi'kmaq Education Authority to assume control over First Nation education. And in 92, that conversation changed from what we wanted originally as
I'm sorry, Ms. Gould, I'm very sorry. We are still having an issue with interpretation here. We're just waiting for the French translation. Hold that thought, Ms. Gould. I'm very, very sorry.
Okay.
C'est
Do
revenu,
we-
Monsieur le Président, mais je n'ai pas
Are
eu
you getting it
la
yet?
question de Mme Idlard, par contre. Je ne sais pas si on a le temps, mais je n'ai pas eu la question.
And no, I'm not getting the French translation. Okay. Hold tight.
Okay.
Please hold.
Okay.
Sorry.
I know it's a long day for a lot of you, but every time you say hold, you have to add 1 minute to my clock.
I am very sorry. I didn't want to interrupt that last time because you were speaking. I thought for sure you were going to come through the screen and strangle me, but. Are we good? Good to go. We're good to go. Okay. I don't even know where we left off. So, Ms. Gill, did you hear the question?
I have a photographic memory.
No.
In
Okay.
1991.
Okay.
I did hear the question.
So Ms. Gill did not get the French translation in our question. Is there any way we could repeat the question for Ms. Gill? And then Ms.
I
Gill.
don't need the French translation.
No, Ms. Gill does. We do on this end.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And then we'll reset the clock, Ms. Gould. And
Okay.
okay.
The question was, to get to where you are in self-governance, what did you have to do what steps did you have to take to get everything that you needed and that brought you to where you are today?
Okay, Ms. Gould.
Thank you. And so in 91, very quickly, a historical dive. In 1991, the Assembly of Chiefs here in Nova Scotia approached the then Department of Indian Affairs and proposed a Mi'kmaq Education Authority to assume jurisdiction and control over First Nation education. That conversation went from what we would call a devolution of education programs from Diane into more of the jurisdictional transfer from Canada, subsequently Nova Scotia, to the Mi'kmaq. And so that conversation started through a lot of assurances on nailing the vision. And so that happened through a political accord, the Mi'kmaq Education Framework itself. And then that was used to inform what we will call now the Mi'kmaq Main Agreement. And so that was an original agreement, still in its original form today in 97. And the authority itself, federal legislation, provincial legislation, all speak to both of those. And then, through that, of course, legislation was the official transfer of jurisdiction from Canada to the Mi'kmaq.
Okay, thank you very much for that testimony. Thank you to our witnesses for joining us here today. Thank you for our committee members for that great question. This is great evidence that we will include in our study. I'd like to thank the committee for their patience
Point of
today.
order, Mr. Chair.
Uh-oh. Why?
I just wanted to commend the chair on doing such a great job in a difficult situation today as our chair. So well done, Chair.
Why thank you. Thank you very much. Thank
Point
you.
of order, Mr. Chair. I don't think that's
yes,
a point
Mr.
of order, but I would like to echo the comments and thank you for your pinch hitting in a very surprising day today, that for all of us in the committee and for all of our witnesses who had to endure with us as we go through this day. But you did a great job, Mr. Chair, and thank you.
Well, thank you to the committee for making it easy on me. You really actually did take it easy on me, and yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah, I know you want to get. It's okay. I did not expect to do this when I woke up this morning, so I'm sure this came as a surprise to anyone. Do want to say I will miss our chair, Mark Garneau. He was a steady hand at this committee, a lot of fun to work with, and his leadership will be missed. And his service to the not only Parliament, but as a minister, as head of the space agency, as part of our military, he is the true leader that I think we all aspire to become. So thank you, everyone. Now, I will adjourn.